Imagine a world where the word cancer no longer invokes fear. A world where the diagnosis doesn't mean months of chemotherapy, painful side effects, and a gamble with mortality. What if a universal cure for cancer, every type, every stage, was discovered? A simple injection, a pill, or a gene therapy that eliminates tumors permanently with no recurrence. The breakthrough that every scientist, doctor, and patient has longed for finally becomes reality. In this video, we'll dive into what this world might look like. How would such a cure change global health? How long would we live? What would it mean for healthcare systems, economies, and even our planet? To understand the impact of curing cancer, we first need to grasp just how big a role cancer plays in our current world. Cancer is the second leading cause of death globally, responsible for around 10 million deaths each year. It's not just a disease of the elderly. It strikes children, young adults, and the middle-aged. It causes immense physical pain, emotional suffering, and financial hardship. Entire healthcare infrastructures, oncology wards, radiation centers, pharmaceutical research labs are built around the treatment of cancer. Trillions of dollars are spent each year on diagnosis, therapy, and palliative care. Now imagine all of that rendered obsolete by a single medical breakthrough. The first immediate result would be a massive drop in global mortality. In countries like the US, where 1 in 4 deaths is due to cancer, the life expectancy could jump by several years. Some estimates suggest 2 to 4 years added on average. In countries where infectious diseases are less of a threat and cancer is the leading killer, the effect would be even more dramatic. But longer lives are just the beginning. The psychological impact would be profound. No longer would people live in fear of a disease that can strike silently and progress aggressively. Family histories of cancer would no longer feel like a genetic curse. Children would grow up in a world where cancer is part of the medical history books, something studied, not feared. The trauma associated with cancer would gradually fade from public consciousness. On a societal level, healthcare systems would transform. Oncologists might pivot to preventive care or to treating other chronic diseases. Cancer centers would either close or repurpose themselves. Insurance companies would adjust coverage, and governments would reallocate funding. Billions of dollars currently funneled into cancer treatment could be redirected to battling Alzheimer's, heart disease, or rare genetic disorders. It would create an enormous opportunity to innovate in other areas of health. Economically, the change would be massive. Currently, cancer costs the global economy over $1 trillion annually in lost productivity, treatment expenses, and premature death. Removing that burden would free up not just money, but human potential. People in their 40s, 50s, or 60s, prime years often cut short by cancer, could continue contributing to the workforce. Retirement ages might rise as life expectancy soars. Businesses would benefit from a healthier, longer-living population. But such a cure wouldn't be without its challenges. If we suddenly eliminate cancer, one of the biggest killers, then more people will live longer, and that has ripple effects. More people living into their 90s or 100s means more pressure on pension systems, social security, housing, food supplies, and even planetary resources. We might delay death by cancer, but eventually people will still die from other diseases, organ failure, or simply aging. In fact, by removing cancer, we might expose the limits of our current understanding of aging itself. Healthcare systems would shift focus to age-related illnesses like dementia, Parkinson's, and osteoporosis. New leading causes of death would emerge. Instead of oncology, the booming field might be gerontology. Pharmaceutical companies would pivot, investing heavily in anti-aging research or therapies to maintain quality of life in old age. We may see new frontiers in regenerative medicine, brain enhancement, and organ replacement. Another consequence would be population growth. Fewer deaths mean more people living longer, and unless birth rates decline, the global population could rise rapidly. This raises ethical questions. Should we continue extending life without ensuring sustainable living conditions for everyone? Would access to this cancer cure be equal around the world? Or would it become a luxury treatment only available to the wealthy or people in developed countries? If the cure is patented by a private company, the economic inequality could deepen. Imagine if a pharmaceutical giant owns the rights to the only cure for cancer. Will they charge millions for treatment? Would governments intervene? Should it be free for everyone as a basic human right? These are not just economic questions, they're moral ones. Access to life-saving treatment has long been a matter of privilege, and the cancer cure could either break or reinforce that pattern. From a cultural standpoint, the disappearance of cancer would be surreal. For decades, cancer has been a central narrative in literature, film, and public fundraising efforts. It's inspired heroic stories, shaped family tragedies, and sparked billion-dollar charities. Cancer walks, ribbons, and awareness months would vanish. An entire emotional and philanthropic infrastructure would fade, leaving behind a mix of relief, nostalgia, and perhaps for some, identity crises. There's also the possibility of unintended consequences. Cancer, as horrible as it is, has also driven a vast amount of scientific progress. Our understanding of genetics, cell biology, and immunology has advanced because we've been trying to understand how cancer works. The tools we've developed to fight it, CRISPR, immunotherapies, nanotechnology, have applications far beyond oncology. If cancer disappears, will we lose the urgency that has driven decades of medical innovation? Or will we refocus that energy on something even more ambitious, like aging itself? Let's take a closer look at how this cure might actually come about. Scientists today are exploring everything from immunotherapy to personalized mRNA vaccines to CRISPR gene editing. A universal cure might look like a cocktail of immune-boosting agents, precision-targeted nanoparticles, and gene-correcting technology. It wouldn't just kill existing cancer, it might prevent it from ever forming. Regular preventive treatments could become a routine part of life, much like vaccines are today. This brings us to another key point: prevention versus cure. If we truly cure cancer, will that change how we view personal responsibility for health? Today, many cancers are linked to lifestyle: smoking, poor diet, exposure to carcinogens. With a cure in place, will people become less cautious? Will smoking increase again? Will people skip screenings thinking there's always a fix available? Or will the cure come with public education campaigns emphasizing that prevention still matters for overall well-being, not just cancer? Social structures would also adapt. With people living much longer, the structure of family life might change. 3 or even 4-generation households might become the norm. People could have careers spanning 6 decades. Education might become lifelong, with people returning to school at 60 or 70 to prepare for a new phase of work. The very notion of aging could shift from decline to transformation. Let's not forget the emotional implications. Watching a loved one battle cancer is among life's most traumatic experiences. The fear, the helplessness, the slow decline, it scars families for generations. The elimination of cancer would lift a psychological burden that shadows nearly every family on the planet. There would be joy, yes, but also a strange emptiness where fear once lived. Over time, we might forget how terrifying cancer once was. Just as today, few people remember the horror of smallpox or polio. But history warns us not to grow complacent. Cancer is not a single disease. It's hundreds of mutations, hundreds of pathways. A cure would have to be flexible, evolving, and constantly upgraded. Even after the cure, vigilance would be necessary. Viruses mutate, so can cancer. We might win the war, but we'll still need a strong defense. So, what happens if we cure cancer? We gain years of life, billions in economic growth, and relief from an ancient terror. We redefine medicine, social norms, and what it means to age. But we also face new challenges: overpopulation, inequality, ethical dilemmas, and the need to care for a dramatically older society. Cancer's absence doesn't mean utopia. It means a new chapter with new questions, hopes, and fears. Still, what a beautiful world that would be. A world where no child dies of leukemia, where parents live to see their grandchildren grow old, where people no longer whisper the word cancer like a curse. It may not happen tomorrow or even in this decade, but science is moving fast, and one day, maybe not too far in the future, cancer might just be a word in the history books.